start. Hello, everybody.
Hey,
Good
folks.
evening. As you can tell, we are all smooshed together this evening.
Because we have an guest.
Hello. We hope you're all doing quite well. A little bit of a disclaimer at the top of the stream. So the UK government is currently imploding? I don't know. How do you want to describe this? A hot garbage baby? So we're just going to kind of put that in the box with the rest of the fire over there for the rest of the night.
I'm actually really glad you brought up the concept of flame, because that meme of the little dog sitting there in a hat in the room that's burning down going, this is fine. That is our Prime Minister, except you need to replace the little dog with the living avatar of the worst elements of the English class system, who hates poor people, anyone who is on a different part of the gender spectrum to him, anyone who isn't him, and has no concept of right or wrong. 42 members of his government resigned today.
Yes.
That is more than in history.
Yeah, that's a new historic first. And he's just sacked one person, so now we know where the grudge was, because he's the one guy he fired.
The Chancellor of the Exchequer, he hired 18 hours ago, was one of the 4 people who sat him down earlier today and went, please fuck off.
Yes, you really do need to go. Oh, by the way, content warnings.
He hasn't listened.
So, we're going to put that all away for tonight.
This is why the void is out tonight.
Yes, but we're all in line of sight of our phones, so if like BBC alerts start going up, please excuse us if we get a little bit distracted. Normally
we do 3 things on this show. The first is a monologue, which is designed to give you a chance to get situated, feed the Roomba, ensure that your pets are hydrated.
I'm putting feed the Roomba on the list. That's a good one.
Cover the bed in cookie. Whatever you need to do to get right, basically. Hydrate, medicate as needed. Get safe, make sure that your significant others are in a good spot. Whether that's
make popcorn, lock the doors, you know.
Tie the laser pointer to the Roomba so the cat and the Roomba can continue to fuse.
Oh, I was going to do that as guest art too. I have to put that one back on the list.
There we go.
Okay.
We don't do that on guest weeks. This is a guest week.
So
we're going to jump straight into it here pretty quick. However, after the interview, we should also
sprinkle cat litter in front of the robot vacuum. Baby needs snack.
Aww.
It's so cute. Okay. Tangent. Is anybody surprised?
First of many. Here we go.
Yes, exactly. One, unfortunately, a lot of us are probably not going to be watching Hocus Pocus 2 now because Bette Midler on herself.
One job, Midler.
I know.
One job.
But the poster for Hocus Pocus 2 is delightful because one of the witches is on a Swiffer. And another of the witches is standing on 2 Roombas instead of a broom as it flies away. And I think that is adorable. And that is my tangent. Concluded swiftly. Thank you. Feed the Roomba a boozy milkshake. Throw popcorn into the void. Yeah, it's been that kind of week.
So we do 3 things on this show. The first is normally the opening monologue. Then we'll either play a game. And finish off with the shenanigans.
Love you, Wendy.
We are not currently, because it's an interview week, going to do the opening monologue or the story. We're going to talk to Rook instead, because Rook's awesome.
You should tell people about Rook.
Rook is a very good friend of mine and a cast member on ROGUEMAKER, and also does like 15 other things.
And the
director
director,
as well. Yes.
And one of the producers, and one of the voice actors, and probably wrote stuff and just didn't get credit for it.
Rook
does lots of social media things.
Rook is one of is along with the rest of the ROGUEMAKER team, one of the living definitions of why podcasting cannot be harmed by conventional weaponry. This is a field which is defined by punkish DIY invention. You just fucking do it.
So yes, just a heads up quickly. ROGUEMAKER has aired the first half of its episodes, episodes 1 through 5. There's going to probably be spoilers here this evening. So if you have not listened to ROGUEMAKER episodes 1 through 5 and are very concerned about that, this is your spoiler warning. You might want to come back to Valhalla and we'll be awaiting you, but it is inevitable. We are going to talk about the events of ROGUEMAKER 1 through 5 this evening.
You know those really good science fiction novels, the ones which have an awful lot of things happening and massive ideas, and you get to the point where you think something it'll finish, and then you realize you're halfway through, and the representation's really good, and it's really funny, and it's really clever, and it's really well written. Really? Yeah, so you must listen to ROGUEMAKER as well, because that's what this is. It is such a fucking good show.
See, this is my favorite part, because this is where we introduce our guests to the audience. And you can't see our guest right now, but we can. When it's lovely seeing them get all embarrassed and everything. So why don't we quickly put Rook on screen?
Okay.
Hang on a second. I have to push magic buttons and listen to headphones and all that good stuff.
Spirit Magic Helmet.
Yes, you ready?
Sure.
Put your headphones on. Go. There we go. Ta-da!
Rook.
Oh, hello there.
Hello. Didn't see you there.
I didn't see you there.
I didn't. Hello there.
Nice.
classic.
How are
Good
you?
evening.
I love it. I love it.
Good evening. Good evening, folks. Or,
Before we
good
dive
time
into it,
zone.
we need to talk about the sheep. Are they sheep
What?
behind you? The
What?
sheep?
Oh, these are sock puppets
Of course they are. Brilliant.
that I have tied to my headboard. They were
For reasons.
for reasons. I was in a play my senior year of college called Fucking A by Susan Laurie Parks. It is
An excellent name.
yeah, no, and it's even better when you find out that it's kind of a take on the Scarlet Letter, sort of.
Oh, nice.
Ooh.
So fucking A.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, that's a double pun because it's
With
Easy
the,
A and Scarlet Letter. Nice.
There we go.
Thank
Okay.
Anyway, but there are these three characters who are called the Hunters, who are just horrible, horrible people who hunt down convicts and take disgusting joy at, torturing and killing them. Think Avatar of the Hunt, think Cop.
Okay.
And so there were three of them that are meant to be played by three people, but in our production, they were all played by me and these two buddies over here. So I got to take them home, and they still have cop hats on them, but they're sewn on, so I can't take them off. But I love them anyway. They're my friends.
You can redeem them.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is amazing.
They're not real cops. They just played them in a show once.
Okay.
When I was at school, my dad was the head of English at the school I went to, and he also did the annual school play. And in his last few years, he it is fair to say, got weird with it. There is an English play called The Silver Sword, I think by Ian LeMessurier, which
That's a very English name.
Which is a kind of plucky children in World War II France do plucky children things. And so obviously it's perfect for like a school in the 1980s on the Isle of Man going, no one knows where we are, what the fuck? This was notable for two things. The first was the time when my mother sat in the audience, because of course she showed up for every production, because she could drive. It got to the interval and she just looked up at the stage, looked at me and went, I need to go. Why? Someone's bleeding. And I was like, firstly, that is the most Batman thing you have ever said. Secondly, she was fucking right. One of the cast has had a nosebleed for the entire first act, somehow covered it up, and Mum was like, no, it's okay, I know how to deal with this, sorted them out for the next scene. This was a slightly cursed production as well, because it was hit by a flu epidemic, which meant one of the most heroic things I have ever seen took place. There's a moment with two German sentries, and they're like the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. They're kind of dark comic relief.
Yeah.
One of them was ill. No one else could replace it. So one kid did both lines.
Oh. And so he just like stand back and forth?
He literally did the, Hans, war is hell. Ja, Kurt, it is. What are you going to do when the war is over? Open the shop. Probably become... a publican or something. And it's like a little nothing 15-line scene. The kid got a standing ovation.
Bless that! That is the sweetest thing. I love it.
Yeah, that was basically what I did, except it was done on purpose. And you know who else was in that production? Alex Kingsley, who you know.
Yeah.
Dude, seriously? That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, we were in the same year in college.
That's really cool.
See, this is one of the other reasons why I love podcasting, because the world is destroyed.
I know.
Right.
Exactly. All right, so tell us your life story.
Okay, well, I was born on December 12th, 1997.
No, don't say personal details online!
It was a bright, sunny day, the wind blowing from the northeast. Which
I remember because... Anyway.
Because my mom told me, obviously.
Yes.
She takes note of these things, like which direction the wind blows on, when she's in labor. No.
Like what?
No.
Yeah, no, that she does not do that. Tell us your life story is extremely broad.
Right?
Can you narrow it down a bit?
What do you want to tell us? Okay, how did you come to podcasting then?
Yeah.
Well, gosh, I've been interested in voice acting for like on and off for quite some time. I mean, I was into Homestuck when I was like 13. I think we all wanted to be voice actors back then. And then I did a couple of auditions. My friend Oliver wrote an audio drama a couple of years ago at this point called Whisperling that I'm in like an episode of. But then my good friend Emma Johanna Purinen, who was 2 years above me in college, wrote this audio. Well, I'll go back a little bit.
I was gonna say, because there's like a history of ROGUEMAKER.
There's
like
my friend, my good friend Emma Johanna Purinen had an idea for a LARP.
There was an idea.
There was an idea for a LARP that was to be done online because our friend group is very big into LARPing. I assume I don't have to explain what LARPing is. I assume the people who watch this stream know what LARPing is.
I think you're all good there. Yes.
But anyway, this LARP, our friend group was very into LARPing. It was kind of our major social thing in college. And then when a bunch of people graduated and then, there was a whole pandemic and everything, our friend group decided to kind of move that online and make all these different online LARPs and do all these different interesting things with trying to make it still live action while not being in person. And I tried a couple of them and I actually was not very into them. I couldn't really like get into character. It was all a little bit much. It was all like too many distractions, too like kind of meh for me. But then Emma was like, I have this idea for a LARP, but I'm going to need someone else to help run it with me. And I was like, that sounds like a level of focus that I can do because I still get to be myself and I don't have to worry about like, okay, what's my character thinking and what would they be doing and what's the best next step for me. And I love LARPs, but sometimes they are
the fun, right?
It's all a bit too much of an open sandbox for me. No, I like, the thing is people are like, oh, you must be a really good LARPer because you're an actor, right? I'm like, no, I enjoy being told what to do. I'm a good actor because
where's my scene? Yeah.
Because someone can go stand over there and say this and do it like this, and I could say okay, and then I do that, and then people applaud me for it.
And then I go home and I'm done.
Yes, and no one tells you where to stand in a LARP. Though I do love LARPing, but I was like, yeah, I can help out with this one. And it was this whole LARP in a Discord server where if you know the show, everyone's in these escape pods. So everyone is like completely in the dark. Some people were like, made a little pod like under a desk or like in a bunk bed or like in their bathroom.
I love it.
One person was in an airport at the time, actually. Amazing. So that's fun. But Emma made a like 2-hour-long piece of audio with a bunch of like things going in and out of different commercials and broadcasts and like background of space noise and
love it.
Ship going, I'm sorry, I did not get that. Which is, by the way, why Ship the doylist reason, sorry, my dog is barking and it was distracting me. The doylist reason of why Ship can't hear anybody in the beginning, it's because Emma cannot be in every single pod at once, but Ship needs to be. Mm-hmm. But basically, when you are an admin of a Discord server and people are in voice channels, you can move people around to different voice channels, mm-hmm. and you can mute and deafen them. So we did a little countdown. Everyone pressed play at the same time. And they got like a little opening monologue from Emma being like, breathe in, out, you're going to be in character, blah, blah, blah. And then, the thing that Woe got when they woke up at the pod where it's like, hello, I'm Ship. It is my pleasure to assist you today. Or no, wait. It started with the autopilot. I cannot believe I forgot this because I've heard it about 2 billion times. But,
No, the idea of a live roleplay Discord where you're using the fact that you're moving people through channels as like an asset, it's like a feature of the world. That's really smart.
And so Emma and I moved everyone, and we weren't listening to the thing, but we had like a spreadsheet with all of the minutes marked out where it's like, okay, at this time, is where the Row 12 ad plays. This time is where this announcement comes on, and at this time, everyone needs to be alone. And by this time, we're in groups of 3. And by this time, these couples need to be together. And at this time, everyone's together. And at this time, Rook comes in because I played a secret character at the end. Who, if you've listened to ROGUEMAKER, you now know is John Batalha, played by the lovely Sam Laporte, who was actually also in the original LARP, playing a different character whose name coincidentally is Kazma Jump Cannon, which is the name of my character in the podcast, but they're different characters.
See, I just want to sidebar here a little bit, because this, I think, is a really important part of the creative process in general that no one talks about enough, which is you would not believe how much shit changes between iterations of any given story.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my actual god.
Well, the thing is that there was a character named Kazma Jump Cannon who was basically the same as the character that I play in the podcast. They just were on a different... Because the LARP was played 3 different times, once in one weekend, and then another time a couple months later when Emma realized, we could just... I have the thing recorded, so I can just, recycle all the character sheets and run this again. But the thing is, Emma was like, we'll run 2 of them so that we don't have to, deal with 20 people in one call because there's only 2 of us moving everyone around. And I'll just recycle all the sheets. And then she did it. And she wrote completely different sheets for both games.
And then I just decided not.
So recycled a lot of names. So a lot of the names in ROGUEMAKER, the podcast, are the same as names from Rogue, the LARP, but are not the same characters. There were a couple of different Kuzas, a couple of different Tarsuls, and there are also characters who are basically the same character but have different names. Like, the flight attendant is basically the same as in all iterations of the LARP and in the podcast, but Malachi Tessera is a podcast original name. His original name was Cogent Sutton or Haskellanud Lan, because there's one where the flight attendant
if you played a character named Cogent, I'd never get it out of you again.
Yes, but it would be very on point and precise.
Oh, see? This is why I'd be subjected to Cogent dad jokes for the rest of my life. So thank you for not doing that.
Rubesco said, that said, the idea of how could I turn this into a podcast is now going to haunt every LARP I play, which is funny because everything I see, I think, how can this be a LARP? So...
Okay, we can jump the rails onto that because there's some interesting stuff. Have you read any of the... I'm about a decade out of date on this kind of thing, but have you read any of the Swedish LARP theory stuff that was doing the rounds a little while ago?
What the heck is Swedish LARP theory?
Well, I mean, the character-based, style of LARP, which the kind of LARP that our friends do is sort of based on, is called Nordic LARPing.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's where it started. I'm not sure if I've read any actual, Nordic LARP theory stuff, but a lot of what I've done kind of comes from there.
So what are the core tenets of this then? Because you're talking to somebody who grew up with LARP in California, based entirely out of tabletop RPG stuff. So all
yes, see, that's the American LARP or Boffer LARP comes out of tabletop and is a lot of people throwing things at each other and yelling
fake
fireball or whatever, and hitting people with swords, which I did earlier today. Actually, I had a big axe. It was very top heavy.
So what is Nordic or Scandinavian LARP by comparison?
So it's much more character based, and if I'm going to go into my description of LARP, I need to kind of put a disclaimer on it that I keep referring to this one friend group at my school and that is what most of my LARP experience has been with this one group. And a lot of people who write LARPs in that one group also only have experience in this one group. So it's a little bit insular, and we kind of have some of our own ways of doing things. So if anyone does Nordic LARP and you're like, that's not how we do it, it's like, well, that's how we do it.
Okay.
But anyway, so, you know, there are a lot of different ways you could do a LARP, but the way that we generally do it is, like I said, it's very character-based, it's very story-based. There isn't really combat, and also with our group in particular, we're kind of allergic to mechanics, so we try to shy away from any, like, there's definitely no, like, dice rolling or anything, unless someone is playing D&D within the LARP in character, which has happened. But, you know, there's no dice rolling, there's, you know, it's just, like, you know, everyone's given
you have an objective.
Yeah, you have a character. You might not even have necessarily an objective, depending on what type of game it is. But, you know, you're given a character sheet that's like, this is your name, this is your personality, this is maybe, you know, it's like some backstory. These are, you know, some relationships you have with some of the other characters. And there's a big party. Now go.
Okay. All right.
You know, and like some people have, like, you know, very intense emotional games with, you know, trauma or intrigue and politics or all of that. And you know, and are part of what we call the main plot, even though LARPs generally don't have one main plot, because the goal of a good LARP is that you could write a book from the perspective of every player character, and they could be the main character, and it would make sense.
Okay.
Because everybody has to be the main character of their own story. It's just that sometimes their story is, you know, I have to avenge my brother and, you know, overthrow the king or something. And sometimes sometimes it is, you know, I want to get the best high five ever.
Rubesco says, my group of friends calls that trauma gowning.
What a beautiful turn of phrase.
Lovely turn of phrase.
Yeah, no,
I do like the idea of, here's your character, show up at a party, go. I mean, isn't that basically a leverage episode at that point?
6 leverage
that
episodes.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, a lot of times it's parties just because, like, it's a reason to have a gathering of a bunch of people.
Right. It's a reason to get everybody together at one time.
Thank you for the clarification on that. The 2 examples of Nordic LARP, which a friend of mine was really obsessed with it for a while as a kind of narrative concept. This same friend was also, not long prior to that, hello Wendy, you know who this is, obsessed with straight edge razors, then mono wheel bikes, then motorbikes.
I know who this is.
Then carbon fiber replica swords. Steve has a lot of skills. The 2 that he read up quite extensively on were, apparently there is an annual 3-day cyberpunk game.
It's okay, Rebecca.
Where they hire an office building. And it's basically, congratulations, you are mid-level executives at an extremely dystopian near-future advertising firm. Here's the project you've got to bring into land. Everyone else on this floor hates you. Good luck. And there is...
Oh my god, that sounds like business LARP. You need to not tell me such things exist.
My understanding is that whilst there was technically out-of-character areas, folks slept in their offices. They got so into it.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Yeah, no, I want to do a multiple day long LARP, but, you know...
It's like a Stanley Parable LARP!
Yes, exactly.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy! So
yeah, no,
ROGUEMAKER was a LARP.
The ROGUEMAKER was a LARP. God, I could talk about LARP for hours. I have so many thoughts on it. But yeah, ROGUEMAKER was a LARP, and you know, I helped Emma run it, and I played, you know, this character who is there on the rogue, which was, again, easier for me than staying in character for 2 hours and trying to figure out what I wanted to do and what my motivation was, because for John, I could just be like, I just was like, okay, I'm here, I have this amount of information that I need to convey to the other characters. I have, like, it's very, like, I'm what we call an HPC, or helper player character, so not quite an NPC, not quite a PC, but just there to help.
Assistant GM, almost.
Yeah, assistant GM, but the thing is, it's like, In LARPs that are written by one person, usually the LARP writer plays an HPC, so it's like someone you can go up to and be like, "Hey, what's going on?" and or can like kind of help push you in the right direction. And we also have a LARP committee that makes one big LARP every year, and so then everyone on the committee plays different HPCs that are wandering around and helping people out, and also like are just like don't quite have maybe as fleshed out a backstory as a regular PC. But anyway.
Quest givers, they would have
quest givers, but also just like people are around and tending bar or what have you.
I love that. See, that's what I would do at a LARP, but I would just show up and be like, I'm just gonna answer questions and cook for people and hand out band-aids.
It's great. Yeah, no, that's
what I'm gonna do.
So you'd be you, but in costume.
I mean, I like to be me, but in costume generally. But
right?
Anyway,
who doesn't like to be you in costume? It's an excuse.
Yeah. But yeah, no. And the thing is, it's like the personality of John changed from game to game because there was very little of him that was like concrete a thing, and so it all just kind of depended on what sort of mood that I was in. So like the first game I was very frazzled, and so it's like the transmission comes in, it's like, hey guys, hey, what the fuck? Why are there so many of you? But anyway, so this LARP happened. It happened in January of last year, for the first time, and then again in March, and then Emma wanted to make a novel out of it, which I'm sure she can tell you more about. The whole writing process. She wanted to make a novel out of it, but she kept writing just like dialogue, and she was like, this would be better as an audio drama.
Yep, exactly.
And Emma already made this whole like audio thing for the LARP itself. Yeah, so she was like, I'm going to make this a podcast instead. And so then she messaged in one of our Discord servers like, hey, I need a script editor and also maybe a composer to do music. And so then I was like, hello, yes, I would like to still be involved in this. Also maybe cast me later on. I'd like to be in this. And she was like, oh yes, absolutely. And then our friend Shione came on as also a script editor.
You're like, I'm gonna do this thing and I need this help, and then more help shows up, and then more help shows up.
Which was great. I was so happy when Shione joined up because I was like, oh, thank God, someone who actually knows how to write is being the script editor. Because I was like, I don't know if I know how to script edit, but Shione, who also initially played Kazma Jump Cannon, specifically the one that I played in the podcast. So that character originated with Shione on their character survey saying, I would like to play a character who is obsessed with some piece of media, please. And thus
nice.
Dr. Song will See You Now was born.
I love that.
That is some real nice self-knowledge. Being able to say, like, right? This is the particular emotional beat I want to explore. Because I struggle with that all the time with like casting. It's like, well, what do you want to play? I'm like, a person?
I'm so bad. Like, so all our LARPs start with a character survey, and I've been known to need to be poked several times to fill one out because I'm so bad at filling them out. I never know what the hell I want. I don't know, just wherever I'm needed. And thus I play the best characters in games written by LARP writers who are literal mind readers, of which there are a few in my friend group, one of whom is coincidentally Shione. But Shione is also an absurdly good LARPer and incredibly fun to play with, and has played a wide variety of characters.
What makes a good LARPer? Because you've just described somebody as one. What are those characteristics?
Okay, so someone who's a good LARPer is, first of all,
we could probably talk a lot about what makes a really bad LARPer, which is probably exactly what all of my experience in the past was.
First of all, yes-anding. It's improv. You have to, let things keep going, and, and when someone says something, you have to accept that as part of the world and add to it. So being good at yes-anding is very important.
Do you want to describe that for people who might not know what it means?
So yes-anding, when someone introduces something or says something, like, oh man, this is worse than that time a giant snake came into town and, ate my brother's arm. You don't say, no, that didn't happen. You say, oh yeah, and, we had to call in that guy to slay the giant snake. You have to add to it, and it makes for a much richer world and a much more fun experience it's just about being cooperative.
It's an improv technique, right? It's the idea that you can take what something gives you, accept it as reality, and then build on it as opposed to trying to dispute it.
In addition to that, someone who is there's an idea that originally started out as play to lose, but my group now prefers to call it play to lift, because so a LARP, it's not like a video game. It may share some similarities with some more story-based video games, but you're not trying to win the LARP, because by doing that, you are stepping on everyone else's game. Like, yes, your character has goals, and yes, your character wants to achieve them, but like, if your character doesn't achieve those goals, that doesn't mean you had a bad game.
Or you lost.
You can't, there's no losing a LARP. So it's the idea of play to lose is more of not playing to win. You're not, because if you try to play to win, you end up stepping on other people's stories, and you might just ruin the game for everyone. So play to lift is more of, how can I make this the best story possible for not just myself, but for my fellow players? And so sometimes that means your character doesn't achieve their goals, or sometimes it means, and often it usually means you share a secret that your player doesn't want to. Like, secrets and information economy are a very big part of how we do LARPs.
And those are movements that have been parallel, if not inspired, and been inspired by evolution of TTRPG, and specifically a lot of the live play stuff. I am an older gamer than probably most of the folks in this chat, and I have had really, really negative experiences being a woman playing characters in groups with men, and we won't go into details, but your imagination can fill in the in the rest. And the idea that there is finally being kind of community-wide accountability about, no, we talk about content warnings, we talk about boundaries, we talk about what we do want to do, what we don't want to do. We don't build characters that are going to be completely in keeping with the world that we're in, or that have nothing to do with the party, or going to be diametrically opposed. It's much more collaborative and cooperative than it definitely was in my experience, at least.
Also, those two twin concepts, play to lose and play to lift, neatly explain why every vampire LARP I was in at university in the terrible post-university years sucked ass. Because
I've heard some stories about vampire LARPs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is not a cooperative universe, or it is rather not a universe that lends itself to cooperation.
And it's
easily.
Certainly not communities that are safety oriented, that are taking place at night in urban environments with groups of people. I once had to apologize to an entire symphony orchestra that was rehearsing for an event, because I was in a vampire LARP, and this whole chase sequence happened, and the whole group of people were tearing around a corner they shouldn't have been and smacked into this orchestra, and I was the character in a suit. So I'm the one who had to go, okay, let me explain what's going on. And this is back before, in the US, things like realistic gun carry laws were in place, and safety was not a priority.
So what you're saying is you literally had a needle scratch. Yeah, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got into this situation.
I can even describe for you exactly the suit I was wearing at the time. Yes, it was a very vivid memory. Very much so. Anyway, I'm sorry. Tangent concluded, but yes.
Well deployed, Rebecca, so thank you.
But yeah, no, I think the group that we're in tries to do a very good job of, managing consent and boundaries and all of that.
And then people want different things from gaming. Some people
oh yeah, for sure,
want to go and cater and then just kind of see what's going on and maybe find an opportunity to take place. And other people are much more interested in finding or helping define whatever in retrospect becomes perhaps the main plot of the events.
Yeah, no, one of the things we do, this is particularly for big LARP, but I've seen it used in some small LARPs as well. It's like, sometimes it's less necessary because in a lot of the small LARPs, we're like all friends who already know each other and are vaguely familiar with one another's boundaries and things. But like, we often have name tags that say the name of our character and our character's pronouns. Mm-hmm. Especially with big LARP, because it's like, because even if your character knows everyone's names, you're not going to remember the names of these characters who especially a lot of times they have weird names and it's hard to remember. So anyway, we've got name tags. And so a lot of times we'll put like a piece of tape or like a marker dot if you're okay with like some physical touch. Nothing intense, but like a hand on the shoulder or, what have you, anything, or a handshake, a hug, anything more intense than that, usually doesn't occur, but if it did, would need some, like, real out-of-character negotiation.
Yeah.
But, God.
People are, like, in the chat taking notes, going, yes, okay, next Knuckle LARP, we need those.
One time I did a LARP, and I was talking in character to my friend Michael, who is so good at playing these horrible, evil, villainous characters, and my character was so angry at him that I shoved him, which you shouldn't do without any out-of-character negotiation, but I was just very in the moment, and I shoved him, and he left, and I like had this split-second moment of like,
oh crap,
oh God, I shouldn't have done that. And so this fist on forehead is our symbol for out of character, but he was turned away from me. So I said his real name. I was like, Michael, I'm sorry. And he didn't turn around. He didn't go out of character, just said, I'll kill you in your sleep. Continued walking away.
Nice.
I love that.
It was a great time. Yeah.
So ROGUEMAKER's whole history is LARP based, and then because there was so much of an audio component because of the platform that we're using for the LARP, it just lent itself towards, the prose isn't going to necessarily do what I want it to do. It's a line from Newell. He talks about a lot about how successful audio dramas are stories that have to be told in this medium.
That was, again, this is a thing that Emma might talk about later, but that was also an issue with it being an online LARP, because a lot of times people might take an idea they have for, an in-person LARP and try to see how we can do it online, how we could, do it with, video chats and maybe some like text RP that's like a little less LARPy. But Emma's idea was, how do I make something that can only exist online? You couldn't do ROGUEMAKER in person. Or Rogue. The original LARP was called Rogue, and then it was changed to ROGUEMAKER for SEO reasons. Because absolutely no way you can Google search Rogue and find anything.
This is the whole conversation about SEO and podcast names. We're just going to put in a box over here so that it doesn't start screaming and take over the entire.
If you look really closely, you can see her lawyer.
You can see the trademark bubble just imploring around my head, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
But yes.
But anyway, so yeah, ROGUEMAKER, it wouldn't work in a visual medium because for half the show, people are in pods that are pitch black and are also, in different places from one another. But it doesn't work in any. It theoretically could work as a book, but it works much better
in audio.
In
Exactly.
audio.
And more importantly, one of the struggles, I think, of audio drama as its own form has experienced is, well, it can't all be us talking in type recorders, now can it? Right? The fact that you've got to make an asset of the medium means that there are certain conceits that get overly used. And rogue makers, no, you are in physically disparate places and your voice is the only way you can communicate with each other, is one of those innovative ways of making an asset out of the medium. It's a real strength to be able to say, well, we're not doing this other way because it would just be people sitting in pods. And, even Star Trek doesn't do that. It gets old. It gets boring visually. It's a really creative framing device that makes an asset of the medium.
No. Fuck you.
Statement begins. Yes, exactly. Love it, but
yeah, no. And and it's interesting because there are things we could do in the podcast that we couldn't do in the LARP. Like the LARP, to everyone who's, listened to the first 5 episodes of ROGUEMAKER, the episodes that are out, that's the whole LARP. Or the first 4 episodes really that's the whole LARP. We've done the plot of the LARP. I mean, there are still secrets and things that have yet to be revealed that are usually revealed in the pods during the LARP.
Going back to that idea of a knowledge economy,
yeah, exactly. That's why I was saying that there's there are a number. Like I said, that first weekend where the LARP was run, there were 2 completely different sets of characters, and so it was very interesting because all of the information is there scattered amongst a number of characters. I will not say how many because that could possibly veer into spoilers for the podcast. But both games had information spread out amongst the same number of characters, but who had what information and what part of their backstory it was in, or how they came about it was different. And so it was very interesting seeing it play out in those 2 different ways. And also then when it was done again in March with the same characters, as well, most of the same characters kind of scrambled up, but the same characters with information.
The remix.
As before. The remix. And so it's very interesting to see how secrets spread and how
ROGUEMAKER it's almost like a choose your own adventure game in that there are the same major points, but how you get to them and the decision that's made at that point changes a little bit. So it becomes almost like a branching narrative.
Yeah, but I will say there are things we can do in the podcast. We can now have them in the Titan, have them in John's ship, which, by the way, I named the Titan, and it is a stealth Magnus Archives reference.
Thank you. Excellent.
Wow. I didn't want it to be anything too obvious because I didn't want to take anyone out of character when we were playing the game. But when Emma was like, "Oh, you can name the ship," and this was before Emma had listened to the Magnus Archives. I was like, "The Falling Titan? No, it's a little too obvious. Maybe it's the Titan for short. Maybe it's just the Titan."
There you go. Nice.
And so that's stolen.
It's an homage. It's not stolen. It's
an homage.
We don't steal. We pay homage.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
Or as I was told for several years, homage.
By an English teacher?
Yes.
No! You still say, his dad still says, what does he say, fillet?
Yeah, as fillet, as opposed to fillet.
I'm like, let's not get started on that whole 2 countries divided by a common language thing. It gets really complicated.
Fillet. Wow, that's...
Fillet. I'm like, nasty.
Oh, okay.
There's a whole nother tangent that I'm also going to put in a box about my issue with how people pronounce things on the Great British Bake Off baking show.
Rook, open the box.
All right, okay.
Open the box.
Pick
Rook.
one. Pick one.
Oh
you
God.
Can't go for something easy like aluminium.
No. That's fine. It's a lot of loan words that I have issues with. A lot of words from other languages that we've borrowed into English that should be perfectly pronounceable in British English or American English, the way that it is pronounced in its native language. That they for some reason don't. So like,
what's the name of the spicy green pepper about that big around that you usually put in slices on the top of nachos?
Jalapenos?
Right. They call those jalapenos here sometimes.
Okay, that's horrible. But I will say, at the very least, the J making a sound is not something we have in English. It's terrible and bad, but it's better than taco. Or pasta.
Okay, fine. Or like...
ciabatta.
There's only one
bread.
R in the word sherbet. It's not sherbert. There's only one R in it. Yes.
Yeah.
Things like that.
I just want to end it into the record how very quiet I'm being.
It was a McDonald's commercial that referred to them as jalapenos.
Okay.
And I lost my cool when I heard that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm also just going to say that I don't think Paul Hollywood's ever met a Jewish person and leave it at that. And now we're going to move back to ROGUEMAKER.
Yes, very, very much so.
With a brief moment of appreciation for Noel Barrett, King of the Goths.
Yes. Yes, good. I want his entire wardrobe.
If you somehow have never seen The Mighty Boosh, please treat yourself.
I should. I've heard of it. I've been meaning. It's one of the things that I've been meaning to watch, but it's a very long list.
I will tell you the single joke from The Mighty Boosh, the TV show as opposed to the radio show, which is also worth tracking down.
Because
this is one of mine. Where at the end of one point in the very first episode, Howard, the non-Noel Barrett, the non-Noel Fielding character, is very sad, and Noel Fielding, who's playing Vince Noir, rocks up and goes, "All right. Cheer up, I've got you something." Hands him a poncho. How's it? This is a poncho? Yeah, no one can be sad in a poncho. And Howard very kind of desultorily puts it on. It's not working. Give it a minute. Title card. 2 minutes later. Jaunty Mexican salsa music is playing and they are both happily bopping away. And Vince just goes,
"Yeah!
Told ya!" It is so good. It's so good.
Yeah, that's one for you. I love it. Have fun.
That's fabulous. Also, I have the stream open on my phone. And I keep glancing down to check chat, and I know that there is a delay, and it's still jarring.
Yeah, it is very much jarring. It's like 3-4 seconds.
Rook, I would just like to compliment you not only on being a spectacular guest, but on officially being the most prepared guest we've had. You are the first one who has the chat open on their phone.
I don't think so. I think plenty of other people have had the chat open, but Rook actually showed it to us.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean the thing is that I've been in. Also, you said that the St. Kilda folks had talking points. I do not have talking points. I'm just like, listen, I just want to be able to monopolize Alasdair and Marguerite's time for an hour or two, and I will talk about whatever the hell I please. Which
like
is
your
also
amazing
why
iced chai and all of that good stuff.
Yes, and have a chai, an iced chai, because shooting my freezer with a hairdryer did not get water out of it.
Okay. We need to talk about that because also
why do we need to talk about that?
Because freezers are bullshit, and this is proof. This is absolute proof because we've had the exact same thing. We have a deeply shitty freezer, which is like the size of a fucking cupboard. And a couple of years ago, it iced up. And because the company that runs this building really doesn't give a shit, it took about 6 to 8 months for someone to come out. When he finally did, he looked at it and went, that's iced up. And we're like, cool. You know what you want to do? What? Turn it off. I was like, I'm sorry, what? Turn it off for like 3 days. Put the food somewhere else. It'll all melt. So it's 2021. And we've been refrigerating food probably slightly longer than we've had meaningful examples of language. And not only do we still have the icing problem, but the solution to the icing problem is turn it off and wait.
Turn it off and turn it back on again. Freezers are bullshit.
Wow.
Okay, to tell my story that I told Alasdair and Marguerite before the stream, but I'll tell it again now.
Hey,
So, I was in this, for the record, I was in the city, which for me means Manhattan, because I live on Long Island.
Where? Like in the middle, or?
Long Island? Where in Long Island?
Yeah. I have an aunt and uncle in Smithtown.
Oh, my aunt lives in Smithtown.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm further west, but yeah. Anyway, small world.
That what's the name of that song that has the joke about the Ronkonkoma train line?
I am on the Ronkonkoma train line.
Yeah.
It's the soul coughing song, like
temporarily.
I literally was on that. I was literally on the Ronkonkoma train line a couple of hours ago.
Yeah, Jersey drunk train, not a joke. Been there, done that, never again.
But anywho, I was all the way uptown, and I had my training for the actually it's a LARP camp, which actually both Alex and Omar, two of our voice actors, worked at with me last year. But
you're like camp counseling at a LARP camp.
I'm not camp counseling. I'm an actor, so I'm going to be at HPC.
That is amazing.
For their quest. It's camp. If you know Percy Jackson, it's Camp Half-Blood.
Okay. Yes.
So it's all mythology based. Yeah. So I had training, and it was supposed to be from 1 to 3. And you know, I'm in Eastern Standard Time, so this stream starts at 5 for me. But it's all the way uptown. And so that's about 45 minutes on the subway and 45 minutes on the LIRR, and then, you know, someone has to drive me home. So I left early. I left at like 2 so that I could get home by about 4, so I could be on this call at 4:45 and wash the sweat, bug spray, dirt, and sunscreen off of my face and arms, and, you know, maybe change my shirt. And so, you know, I get home. I have my water bottle that's filled with now warm water, so I, you know, toss it into the sink so I could refill it and have nice, clean, cold water. And then I have, you know, one of those like ice machine water things in my freezer that you could just, you know, sort of use, and it doesn't work. And so I keep trying it, it doesn't work. And then I go bother my dad, who's working from home, and I go, "Dad, the thing's not working." And he said, and I was like, "What do I do?" And he said, "Okay, so get a hairdryer." And I went, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And he said, "Nope, get a hairdryer, open up the freezer, go to the part where the thing is, and just blast it with the hairdryer." And I went, "Okay." And I did that for a while, and it's like 4:20, 4:25 at this point, and I still haven't like washed my face. And I'm like, "It's still not working." And he said, "Oh, it might take like 10, 20 minutes." And I'm like,
I don't have 20
yeah, I don't have that kind of time. So I made it an iced chai latte instead.
Freezes are bullshit.
Yes.
They're bullshit.
And which I've been to Schenectady. Yeah, upstate New York.
Mm. I've got friends from Schenectady. I also like saying Schenectady.
That's what I wanted to say too.
Yeah, cool I look word. At that word and I say, "Ooh, Schenectady." So, you know, I'm gonna shut up.
We will not be telling the Leicester story.
Oh, no, I think we should.
No, because then we're just gonna get right back into why are all those letters there if I'm not supposed to pronounce them? It's just terribly confusing.
Let's just say I feel a fierce stab of empathy every time I watch Stargate Atlantis, and Rodney refers to the ZPM.
No!
And does so belligerently, but more and more as everyone else refers to it as the ZPM.
ZPM. Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Fun fact: the model of AI that Ship is in the podcast it's UJ5, but in the LARP it was U5Z, and Emma said it as Z because she lives in Scotland now and her brain has been taken over.
We have the Atlantic Protocol, which is you have to say Z when you're over there, and then when you're over here you have to say Z because it's right.
No. Yeah, that's one of the things that I don't have a strong opinion on. I like, you know what? I like Zed because it makes the wordplay in that one song in the Matilda musical possible.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's classic.
So I'm pro Zed.
This is a pro Zed stream.
This is a pro Zed space. This is a pro Zed space. I mean, obviously, I say Z because I am American and have lived here my entire life, but you know, it's not one of the things I get irrationally angry about, of which there are many.
Boy, was that a setup. I didn't even do. That's a very good one. I'm gonna hang on to that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Such as.
Grabs the box, drags it back on the street.
Let's see. What is the thing that I get? I mean, the thing is also you know, food, any like food arguments, like, you know, I think, you know, ranch dressing is a sin and an affront against God. And, you know, and I know, like, logically, it's just like, I don't like it and other people are allowed to like it, but also it's so much more fun to just be very, very angry about it.
Yes, fine. It is, yes. If you're interested in the cathartic experience of being affronted, I understand, yes.
Yes. And so, like, food is a fun thing to get angry about because it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I guess there are probably some situations where it does matter, but, like, where, you know, like, you know, you make fun of a certain kind of food and, you know, it's like a cultural thing and, you know, I don't know. But, like, in general, saying, you know, oh, pineapple, you know, arguing over pineapple on pizza, to use a famous example, you know, it's like, it's fun to get up in arms about pineapple on pizza, but you know what? I tried it once and it was fine. It's not my thing, but I see how you could like it.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's so much more fun to be like, you're not, if you like pineapple on pizza, you're not my friend anymore.
You're dead to me.
You're dead to me.
Rubesco says, my friend and I have a long-standing war about what breadsticks are. Or another classic, the definition of a sandwich.
Yeah, definition of a sandwich is a good one. Although, like, I feel like that's been overplayed. You know, I'm kind of tired of the what is a sandwich debate.
Yeah. We should ask more questions about podcasting, because otherwise we're going to talk about food. And it's going to make me hungry.
Oh, no. But you are correct.
Yes. Also, Emma is apparently watching the stream, which I know because she just mentioned Zed makes the alphabet song not rhyme in the UK. I thought they'd have a different song, but they just have the same one and it doesn't rhyme.
That is the national character in a nutshell. Is this broken? Yeah. Who invented it? Queen Victoria. Oh, okay.
We'll just leave it. It's fine. I'm sure she.
I mean, same here, except it's, you know, the founding fathers.
Right.
Who? Queen Victoria?
No. We're putting all of that in a box.
College.
We're putting all of that in a box.
In a box.
With the rest of the fire.
Over there.
Go over there.
See, these things that it's like not fun to be angry about because it matters.
Right. Exactly.
Like, I don't like being angry about the government, but I often am because there's a lot to be angry about.
And because they have a disproportionate impact on your life.
A friend of mine earlier today perfectly described this. He said, I don't enjoy feeling this way, yet here we are.
Yes.
Yeah. But arguing can be fun. Getting angry can be fun. Complaining can be fun. Source,
oh, yes.
I'm Jewish.
Whinging is a source of British character.
It's like
yes. Kvetching is a source of Jewish character.
Yeah. Kvetch, yes, exactly.
Winching is the British dilithium crystal. It just powers the country forever. Oh, it's this shit. You can do anything about it. No. Warp 2. You know?
Yeah.
You're not allowed to make your warp phrase. That's not allowed.
Captain, your orders. Go on.
Yeah, no. Here it's more like, can you fucking believe what just happened? I cannot.
The response to that is, yes, I too am on Twitter.
You fucking believe that guy? You know.
See, this is why I find the American approach to things inherently more reassuring. Because just to steer back to the box we won't open very, very briefly, we've spent the entire day watching very highly trained political journalists go, well, this is unprecedented. He won't do that stupid thing. He does the stupid thing.
10 minutes later,
well,
the stupid thing has been done.
He won't do another 5 stupid things, because then there'd be anarchy 10 minutes later. So there's anarchy.
Yeah, right.
But he won't do
God, I wish there was anarchy.
And it's just like, right?
You see, that's the problem. Americans have a different relationship with violence than the British do.
We just use it on other people all the time.
Yes, that's a very good way of putting it. And as a result, situations that perhaps call for strategically placed, controlled violence, like a general strike, are eschewed. They're the last possibility, where sometimes taking a definitive physical action could have solved a lot of problems.
I agree completely. Let's talk about podcasting some more.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, let's talk about podcasting. Yeah. Hey, let's talk about podcasting.
Do we have violent podcasts we could talk about cathartically?
There's bits of violence coming up in ROGUEMAKER.
There's bits of violence coming up in ROGUEMAKER.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's one of the things I really loved about the show. And one of the things I loved about working on it, one of the things I'm really enjoying as a listener, is actually the democratization of narrative that, like, you've been talking about. There's not really any protagonist. We kind of all take turns, and it's interesting.
It's an ensemble show.
Yeah,
because it started as a LARP,
right?
But it all comes together,
right? And it speaks to that center of every single character is the main character of their own story, and that's a feature.
Exactly.
The thing which I find really interesting coming to this and focusing my critical faculty on it after a few weeks is it puts me in mind of Star Wars. And not the individual movie, but the way that Star Wars is structured. George Lucas has talked about this quite a bit, that the original Star Wars trilogy of trilogies, and this is something which Dave Filoni has embraced as there's various things have gone on, were designed to do what's called narrative rhyming, where very similar events will happen at very similar points in wildly different contexts. And the idea is that those events are explored and provided different context and different perspective each time you return to them. The stuff in the sequel trilogy with Kylo Ren being a Vader fanboy is a literal embodiment of all of this. And the thing which I find really interesting, having this in my brain at the moment, looking back across at ROGUEMAKER, is the way that is very much present in the show in a micro scale. Because there is this single awful event that happens to these people, and then they all go home and the show's fine.
The end! But
the end, it's fine. Everything's fine.
Happens.
Everything has always been fine in ROGUEMAKER and will continue to be fine.
Yes. But because they have this single unifying traumatic event and they all have such wildly different reactions to it.
They all develop the same superhero powers.
You get this far more rounded and nuanced view, both of them and of the event that they've gone through.
It's almost like self-reinforcing context.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, with talking about circular structures, where if you come back to a same perspective, it's not so much that you've gone in a circle, but it's like spiral, and that you've gotten to the same place, but your experience has advanced to the point where you now have a different perspective on the previous iteration and sets of circumstances.
Right.
That is exactly it. And the thing which kind of really sits very strongly with me about that is how Tarsal in particular evolves across the course of the show, because those first couple of episodes, Tarsal and I love Intrasano. Intrasano is fucking awesome. But
hello, Steven.
My God, Steven plays a dick so magnificently. and Tarsal's just fundamental inability to do anything other than fuck you, leave me alone, is so annoying. And then at the exact moment where you're like, you know what, buddy, you got a problem. Oh shit, you do have a problem. Oh God. And it is so perfectly timed, that turn.
That turn, and what's lovely about that turn is that it's empathetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is not a common narrative beat, no, is it?
Suddenly you see why he's lashing out, and you see why that's all.
You know, I think we have empathy for all of the characters. I think all of the characters do at least one thing that's kind of like, oh, they're a dick, whether it's like, this person blew up a ship and killed people, or it's, this person, is kind of mean to the AI. Um, there's like a lot of, moments of people, lashing out or doing these horrible or doing bad things one way or another. But yeah, no, everyone is approached with empathy, which I think is another thing that, like is a strength of having it originate in art, because these things, percolated in the minds of individuals who embodied that character. Tarsul, or a version of the character we know as Tarsul before, before Emma even, wrote the script, was played by 3 different people, all with their own perspectives of how to play the game, and how to do justice to this character. And like, even, it's credited in the episode, but I think a lot of the stuff in the opening of episode 5 is based on a fan fiction that one of the players of the Tarsul equivalent wrote after the game about their backstory.
That's fantastic. So you've gone...
Oh my god, that's cool.
You've gone metafictional at that point, because...
A little bit, yeah. I mean, you say you. It's Emma wrote it. It's not me.
But you're the director.
I did direct it, yes. Or co-director.
So you... I mean, there's a reason why when movies are talked about, the director is the role that is credited as it is their vision of the movie that's being given to life, because they're the person who says, this is the lens through which we're going to view this. So you have a lot of creative influence on which of all of these historic elements got centered and focused on as ROGUEMAKER as a podcast was created.
Yeah, the thing is, it's like Emma and I were very much like bouncing off of each other. Especially because like Emma actually approached me to do, like, after I was already on the thing as a script editor, I was a theater major. I do theater. I have, taken some directing courses. I've never done directing for audio, but I've done directing for theater. And one time, the first thing I actually directed was something that Emma wrote for a, student-run, 1-act festival, a 10-minute play about office workers playing D&D.
Nice.
It's called Dungeons and Deliverables, and it's like a bunch of...
that's really sweet.
3 people get called into HR, and the HR guy is like, what'll be great to help these people work out their problems? A tabletop role-playing game.
That sounds like something some corporate consultant sold them for $10K, right?
Yeah, it was very fun, and that was the first thing I ever directed, and so, Emma knew I knew how acting worked, and I knew how directing worked to some degree, I guess. And so, we kind of worked together and worked off of each other when it came to actor direction and, the, actual like vocal performances. And so, Emma did take an acting class. Emma did take acting 1 in college. But she was like, I'm gonna need some help on this, and I was like, sure, I will do that. And I remember the first ever recording session we have, I was like, oh god, I should probably like have questions for the actors to think about their characters, because that seems like a thing a director would do. And I like just kind of Googled it. I'm like, what questions? I should know these things.
Well, everybody's gonna start someplace, right? Exactly.
Also, yeah, I feel like I'm quite qualified to discuss your abilities as a director, having been directed by you, and also had the singular honor of being your scene partner. And you're really fucking good, buddy.
Thank you.
Seriously.
Thank you so much.
I've been very spoiled because the 3 primary directors I've worked with have all worked in the exact same way. And the way I always think of it is that a really good director opens a room and lets you come in and then goes, you might want to look over there. And Alex on Magnus Archives, Mick and Naomi on Kilda, and you and Emma have all done that kind of, here's where we need you to go. That's great. Dial in on this thing.
Yeah.
And
you have no idea what an honor it is for you to compare me to both Alex Knoll and Rick and Naomi. Oh my god. But
you are exactly the same kind of and level of talent as a director. You're
thank you. That like really genuinely means a lot. Like I feel like I did kind of hit my stride and learn how to do it as time went on, but also like the fact of the matter is that y'all are all very good. So, you know, you're not like, you weren't super hard to direct.
Right, but that's a skill. Recognizing when someone has a level of talent where they need very minor prompts.
Yeah.
Versus like the first time I was directed in a voicing, I was really nervous about it. And I was constantly critiquing myself, and the director was very patient with me. And knowing that, you know, that is a person who needs more help or more one-on-one engagement, as opposed to, y'all are fine, don't forget that, you know, is a skill in and of itself. You should recognize.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that one thing that I have to be very conscious of. So, you know, I've been acting to some degree or another since I was 9, I think, and in a production of Annie, because of course I was. And you know, I oftentimes as an actor have a very you know, I read the script and I have a very particular way of how I think things should be read, and how I would read them. And long story short, I very quickly made myself had myself disliked in my high school drama club because I would be telling other actors what to do, which is a big no-no. And so I you know, learned, and so I learned from that experience, you know, and I learned how to not do that and to stay in my lane. And then, but then once I became a director, it's a little bit more difficult because, you know, there is a certain amount of, okay, telling the actors what to do, but you have to kind of stop and stand back and go, now, do I want them to do this differently because, like, that is where this scene should go because this would be better for the character or what have you? Or is it because this is what I would do?
Yeah, exactly.
Because, you know, like, and I think a lot of directing is allowing actors to make choices, which is really great because sometimes an actor does something really spectacular that you never would have thought of. And then when you say, yes, keep doing that, then that's because you're a good director, right?
Exactly. It's
but yeah, no.
Knowing to leave that space for them to improvise and play around with it and own it and change it. And
yeah, no. And it was like
because you two had a scene together, where it was written in one way, but you proposed to do it another.
Yeah, the first Malachi Pod 10 scene.
Yeah, that first scene with Malachi and Kazma, you know, there's that bit where you know, Malachi is talking Kazma down from a panic attack, and I think before the session actually, you asked, hey, there's this thing that I've found works, you know, with panic attacks. Could I, you know, use that, you know, add that into the scene, the breathing exercise, specifically the in for 10, hold for 7, out for 8. Was that it?
That's the one.
Something like that.
Yes. And yeah, and so we were like, yeah, sure, absolutely. And it was actually very funny because I remembered when I was editing the scene, Emma was like, I don't know if I want to add anything because you need to give Kazma enough time to that when they're no longer having a panic attack, it makes sense for them to no longer that the panic attack would have run its course. And so giving you more lines was actually perfect. But yeah, that was fun, and like
everybody in the chat is like, God, that scene made me cry. I needed that scene. That scene was good.
Yeah, listen, I know if there's one thing I know how to do, it's have a panic attack. Yeah. And it was was very interesting because, like, you know, I'm a big fan of the Magnus Archives, and when, you know, you auditioned and we cast you, I was like, I'm going to be so normal about this. And, like, very intentionally, like, just didn't even bring the Magnus Archives up, like, the first several times we spoke, because I knew that it could. Well, I'm like, I don't try. I've been too entrenched in the. I know that you're like have your eyes on the fandom. You very much have your fingers in those pies, but I'm like, I've been too entrenched in this fandom to trust myself to start talking about the Magnus Archives and not like start getting into like the most god awful discourse or something. Like, I've been exposed to too much horrible nonsense. And I don't trust myself to not be weird about it. And
just be cool, man. Like, just be cool.
Just be cool. And I have to project some sort of air of authority because I'm the director. And, you know, not only was there like, and there was also, you know, obviously a lot of like imposter syndrome that went into that, as well as the fact that I am well aware that I am, I think, the third youngest person in the cast. The only younger people are Alex and Omar, who I know have to be younger than me because Alex has been my friend since we were kids, and she's a year and 10 days younger than me. The 10 days is important because those 10 days I am 2 years older than her. And Omar was in my year in college, and because of cutoff dates, has to be at least a few months younger than me. But
Rebecca says, okay, but with the podcast world being so small, it's so damn weird being a fan of TMA while also being like friends with most of the cast. Yeah, that was that whole thing we did at ArchiveCon. It's like, this is weird. Like, you're my friend, but like we're in a thing together, and like you're kind of a boss. Zalia's like, yup, it's weird.
The most recent example of that I found was Doctor Who Redacted, which is really good fun. Created and produced by a friend of ours. And Kareem, who's been a guest on the show, has a scene-stealing cameo as a 1980s unit public information film, which is literally, hello, welcome to science. And it was actually really cathartic, because 2-3 years ago I would have heard this and my brain would have gone, I could have done that. And hearing it now, the first thing my brain went was, fuck yeah, that's awesome. Immediately followed by, if I ever get to write Doctor Who again, I'm fucking using that guy. He's great. And a lot of that comes from the fact the community is relatively small, that we all either know each other or we know someone who knows each other.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm genuinely really touched that members of the cast are people that were in classes around you. You know, I think that's awesome. And I love that that's combined with the fact that you've got a transatlantic show. And it does genuinely feel like a community. It's really nice.
Rubesco said something else really good. It's like, being friends with one of the cast has helped me understand that the people you put on pedestals are just people, and it is imposter syndrome.
It's imposter syndrome all the way down, baby.
Damn right. At no point at any time where you were directing me did you come across as either authoritarian or nervous. You were professional, you were calm, you were inclusive, and you were helpful. At every point during the time, every time I have returned a mic on in my life, the same part of my brain that once told me that demons had stolen my water bottle went, hey, you suck. They're all about to see how much you suck. You are right. It really is imposter syndrome all the way down.
Cool. So it never. I love that it never gets better. I'm a big fan of how you're telling me is that it never gets better.
It goes. You build a box.
There's a lot of boxes on the stream tonight, apparently.
A lot of boxes. Imagine that your brain is filled with tiny boxes.
The best description I ever heard of this was from Bill Hader from Saturday Night Live. And a couple of years ago, he basically said, I have incredible anxiety all the time, and it stopped me doing so many things. And the way that he was able to deal with it, he said, I personified it. I literally imagined it as a little demon sitting on my shoulder going, you suck! Like, why? and then it would explain why he sucks. And he'd be like, well, that's not true. Here's why. And he imagined the demon going, what? Yeah, I don't suck. Here's the proof, man. And the demon was just going. And
we talk about your puppy brain.
Yeah,
all the time.
I have puppy brain. My puppy brain exists in 3 modes. The first is I have all these questions. I'm really worried about this thing. I need to do all of these things, and I need all these questions. I'm just going to go round and 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 round. And you're pulling up the Marguerite had art of puppy brain commissioned for me.
Yes, this is puppy brain.
Oh, puppy.
Yes. Puppy brain.
I think I have seen this actually.
Yes.
But yeah, no. Puppy.
And then there's the mode where Puppy Brain has a checklist, and he's like, so what if this happens? This. Okay. What about this?
I'll put these in the stream notes.
Okay. And then there's the third mode where Puppy Brain just goes, you have answered all my questions, I will sleep now.
Yes. And that is the goal, is to get to puppy number 3 sometimes, right?
Yeah, no. But like, I mean, Em and I just try to make our, recordings and our table reads and whatever, like a really welcoming space, and sort of let the actors engage at whatever level they wanted to engage. Which is very important to us, because like we have a Discord server, and some people are in there all the time, and some people, they come in for their recordings and then they go. And that's, it's whatever, you do you. If you want to mute the server, that's fine.
And it's especially important depending on like subject matter.
Yeah,
like
of course.
The obvious comparison I'm going to draw here is you working with St. Kilda.
Yeah.
And how that had a lot more in terms of more formalized safeguarding, checking in regularly, because you're talking about some pretty dark stuff.
Yeah, I will say St. Kilda does get a bit more intense, I think, than ROGUEMAKER.
Yes,
some stuff.
very much so. Yeah.
I have talked before about how I got some. I was very happy to get it. I got some praise for my work in episode 7. Like, oh, you sounded really sad, and I was like, yeah, that wasn't acting.
I personally was having a hard time with this. Yes, exactly.
It's
just Naomi's epic baller move of, oh, the season finale is dropping tonight. Okay, well, I'm moving house and I can't show up on the read. Bye.
Right. Exactly. We have been going with this almost 90 minutes, and I want to be respectful of time, and we should probably talk about what's coming next. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have this back half of ROGUEMAKER.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't have laughs, right? Total lulls.
It's all
laughs,
fine.
just lulls. We've got the back half of ROGUEMAKER, although I will say we are taking a break. We're just going off 1 week. I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to say this because we haven't announced it yet. But I'm pretty sure that we're taking off a week between episodes 6 and 7. So you're going to have to wait a month for episode 7 after episode 6, I think. So,
okay.
But, we've got the last 5 episodes of ROGUEMAKER. Then we are going to release some bonus episodes.
Yay.
One of which the one that has currently been written, or I've just read the draft of, is Malachi centric, so you have that to look forward to.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm also, in theory, going to write a mini episode that I keep forgetting to do, that I need to do.
I'm just picturing Malachi in the little flight attendant apron. That's where my brain goes sometimes.
It's possible.
It's great. It's a good episode, and I'm very excited for it. But yeah, aside from that, it's like,
because ROGUEMAKER's a done and one, right? It's
it's one and done. We are.
But the team now is all warmed up and ready to go.
Yeah, right? I know. It's like we're, Emma has gone from, this is a one and done, I am definitely never ever making a season 2, I've told all the story I want to tell, to, it's probably only going to be 1 season. It would have to be a really good story, a really good idea, if I wanted to make another season. So there's no plans for another season, and I wouldn't hold my breath for it, but,
The possibility exists.
Yeah, the possibility exists for something being next, but
you've seen Pacific Rim, right?
Oh, it's my favorite movie.
Of course, because you're a fantastically tasteful human. The moment in Pacific Rim where Newt is asked by Ron Perlman, because God love him, he's playing Ron Perlman. I know his character has a name, but he is Ron.
He was just in that movie for the boots.
Just that whole thing.
They were very good shoes.
They were great boots.
Well, what do you want it for? I can't tell you. It's classified, but it is very cool. I could tell
That's
you.
me.
Okay, I'm going to tell you. That is every podcaster. I'm done.
Yes. No, I'm only going to do this once.
I'm probably done.
I'm probly done.
I might be.
That's
done.
me constantly trying not to tell any spoilers. Also, there is actually.
Job, by the way,
you've done really well tonight.
Seriously.
Yeah, yeah, it was a risky business having me on here without Emma to rein me in. Just
you
in
can
general.
You can just fail Emma off screen going.
Yeah, no, because the thing is, with Casma's name isn't revealed until episode 4, which I have feelings about, because Casma Jump Cannon is the best name ever.
Yes.
And I was not allowed to tell anyone that Emma's laughing right now. I was not able to tell anyone the name of my character or the name of the character that I played in the LARP, because remember, I played John, whose name was also a secret. And so I was very much biting my tongue about that. And then when I wrote this when I put up the transcript for episode 2, which was based on a copy and paste of the recording script, I kept Casma's name in there. I kept Casma's name in there, and then at the end I wrote listen, I know Casma's name hasn't been said in the podcast yet, but let's hope that Emma doesn't make me change this, and this will just be a secret between you, the transcript reader, and me. Just don't tell anyone. Just don't tell anyone, transcript reader. And then Emma caught it and changed all the Casmas to pod 10s.
Oh.
But yeah.
But you've got to have that, right? When you're writing things.
Yeah, no. I mean, Emma,
Alasdair always has
there's that Tumblr post that's that's oh, my girlfriend's out of town, I'm gonna cut all the sleeves off my shirts, and it's why? My girlfriend is 90% of my impulse control. Except it's Emma.
Yeah. You always put some joke in TFL that I catch and is there just for you.
Yes.
And then gets removed.
Yeah, but it's always there.
Right? You gotta have it. You gotta have the whimsy.
This one's for me.
Exactly.
No, Emma is also the reason why anything was done on time, and anything was organized, and our recording sessions ran like clockwork.
And
which
they
they
did, by the way.
And your crew's gotta have that. Right?
And I can take absolutely no credit for that. It's entirely on Emma.
We're gonna talk to Emma later as well.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Once
I think
yes,
that sounds good.
Yes, you'll talk to her when the show is over, so she can tell you all the spoilers.
And we can talk more about I'm convinced that one of the real strengths of audio drama is that there is so much to do that it's impossible for you to have kind of the lone creator syndrome.
Yeah.
The idea that there is just an author in an ivory tower creating a perfect work. There's too much work to do. So you've got to have teams or multiple people, and there's usually the stereotype is you've got the highly creative one and you've got the highly organized one, and that itself is enough to get any project moving, which is brilliant.
Yeah. The thing is that Emma is both creative and organized, and I'm here also.
We do not do low self-esteem in this dojo.
No imposter syndrome, but it
I'm just saying Emma is both creative and organized, and I helped.
Thank you. That is much better.
And I'm helpful.
You are also an instinctively helpful and intuitive director and one hell of an actor.
Yahoo!
Thank you. Yeah, no, listen, I have some things that I know I'm good at, and I have some things that I think I'm good at, but the little brainworms get at me. I know that I am a good singer, which is hilarious because not only do I not sing in ROGUEMAKER, but also there's a line coming up. Kazma at least canonically thinks they're a bad singer. I have words about the concept of bad singer entirely, but again, box. But
that might have to go on the emoji list.
Gonna say,
okay,
box.
But like, I know I'm a good singer. That much, like, I can take that to the bank. I know I am a decent actor at the very least. Whether or not I'm a good actor depends on my
perspective of other people. That's not your job.
Yeah, it depends on perspective of other people, but also whether I think I'm a good actor depends on my self-esteem that particular day.
Valid.
I have directed, and they've turned out, and some of them have turned out good.
Fine, box ticked.
You have a very particular set of skills.
I have a very particular set of skills. But yeah, I mean, one of the things I'm really like patting myself on the back about, like legitimately for real, is the space that we've created amongst our actors, creating a space where people can, feel comfortable being ourselves. Sorry, I'm veering away from the what we're doing next because this is the thing that I want to talk about.
It's okay, fine.
It's fine.
Cause like, as someone who has done theater, there's directors who create a space and also, casts that make a space that is uncomfortable. That is, sometimes you're in rehearsal and you just want to leave. And for starters, there is nothing that motivates me more than people doing the thing badly, because I go, I could do better than that. But also, like, as someone who's had a lot of like bad experiences and also like has had some bad experiences, I was very determined to make sure that that would not be the case, that this would be a welcoming environment where people can, like, just feel free to like hang out and be friendly with each other, but
and
also
give things a try, right?
And give things a try, and try and not be afraid of failing. And also, this was not necessarily my goal, but something that really made me happy, that you, Alasdair, and a couple of other of our actors happened to share some very personal things that was connected to the piece, and you were like, this reminds me of this thing that happened in my life, and this is something that I am bringing to the character and bringing to the scene, and having this like kind of, able to be emotionally vulnerable with, me and Emma and, whatever other actors were there. And the fact that you and the other people, the fact that we had that trust is really important for me, because as someone who has done theater, there's a lot of times where there's an expectation that you will be your most raw emotional self in front of everyone, an expectation of
you bleeding on the page, right?
If you bleed on the page, of no clear boundaries, of you, crying in front of your professors, and that's cool, and everyone can just watch that, and possibly being touched without consent or what have you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that in the theater world, and granted, like, it's getting better. There are a lot of spaces where that's not a thing, but there are also a lot of spaces where that is a thing, and that's the expectation, and I didn't want to come in with any of those expectations, but the fact that that vulnerability happened anyway, and you felt safe to do that, I think that's
the big box tick.
Yeah, that's of all the things that make me that mean like I can go away and say that I was a good director. It's that.
Nice.
It's that I was trusted by my actors. And because it's like, I think we made a good show, but it's like, I think, the actors made good performances, but it's like, I think the actors maybe could have gotten good performances. Someone else could have gotten good performances out of those actors. These are really good actors.
the personal elements which I brought to Malachi, and this is no disrespect to the other directors I've worked with, but it is absolutely something you should take as a compliment. I have never brought up with other roles. You created the space where I felt safe enough to suggest that, and that means everything.
Yeah, no, I mean, you like really brought, you brought yourself into the character, and you made this character a more three-dimensional person, and I don't know, and it's something that I really appreciate you were able to do. Can
I tell you my favorite ROGUEMAKER story?
Please do.
Okay,
Please so
when ROGUEMAKER auditions were going on, Alasdair had recently been cast but not announced in St. Kilda. And we were talking about, because we were getting ready to do a couple of other things, so it was one of those times a year where like we update bios, and he was talking about, okay, so I have to update with this role and this role. I'm like, I keep playing bad guys. I'm really kind of worried I'm going to get stereotyped as the, okay, well, if I show up, I'm going to be the bad guy. I'm like, okay, I have a challenge for you, because that's how we do personal growth around here, is we challenge each other. I said, I just saw the ROGUEMAKER auditions come out, and there's a role in here for a guy who's a total marshmallow. You have to go audition for the marshmallow. And that was Malachi. So I feel a little bit smug.
You should feel justifiably very smug.
Because you have also talked about specifically how now that you've played Malachi and other characters since, that you do in fact see that you have range.
One of my closest friends is a voice actor called Sarah Griffin, and we work with Sarah in a variety of ways, an awful lot. Competitive personal growth.
And, yes, it works for us.
And I remember chatting to them a couple of weeks ago. I forget what it was, but I'd recorded something. I said, do you ever have that thing where you ask yourself, do I have range or do I just get louder? And it took them like 5 seconds.
You've seen Matthew McConaughey. It's a valid question.
And it took them like 5 seconds, and they just came back with, we all ask ourselves that all the time. Don't worry. Right. But ROGUEMAKER really is a very important show to and for me, because that is proof for me. Yeah, and this goes back to the imposter syndrome thing.
Yeah,
My version of that is the next time that the demon brain goes, yeah, you suck, you don't have any range, I can go, Malachi, the narrator, Peter, the adorable Ross in super suit.
I'm so excited for that.
Y'all are not ready for super suits. It's just and I'm not just saying that because it's a superhero legal drama. But yes, I'm very excited for super suits.
We are speaking to you tonight, roughly 8 inches away from Marguerite's She-Hulk shrine.
Yes, exactly. And a very loud motorcycle.
Yeah, thank you for that. We're all terribly impressed.
Exactly. Right, we should try and wrap this up. Okay, so
wait, can I just say something? Can I just say something about Alasdair for a second?
Of course, please embarrass him. I love this.
While we're talking about his acting, because the thing is that when I saw his audition, actually no, before I saw his audition pop up, I saw that you, Marguerite, had liked the casting call. I saw that you had liked the tweet, and I was like, is Marguerite gonna audition? Is Alasdair gonna audition? Is Alasdair Stewart gonna audition for my show? And I was like looking, I'm like, what parts could he play? I'm like, he could be a good no-go. He could be the flight attendant. Oh, you would be really good as the flight attendant. And then you auditioned for the freaking flight attendant, and you had like the sweetest audition. And like one of the things about the flight attendant is like, going back to the scene where the first scene with Malachi and Casma, where Malachi is, talking them down from a panic attack, is that part of that was in the audition. Mm-hmm. And that was like a really important part of the Malachi audition for me, because so many people did it like it was like some like, ASMR like meditation app sort of thing. Like, hypnosis video, now breathe in and out. Good. Which that's all well and good, but it's, what I wanted it to sound like a person talking to another person genuinely. And like having seen you as Peter Lucas and having seen you here in this stream, just like what you're like, the kind of person you present yourself to the world, I was like, yeah, this is a part that he could totally do. And then listening to that audition, it was like, yeah, this sounds very genuine and real, because it's like the way you play Malachi is like if Peter Lucas were real nice instead of fake nice.
That's exactly it. That is exactly it.
Which is also kind of what you're like.
Aw, thanks, buddy.
Yeah, to be valid.
Yeah, that's absolutely what I was aiming for. He isn't drawn from any particular people I know. A lot of him is drawn from Crisis Response Me.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of him is okay, something very bad has just happened. Here's what we're going to do. If you had scripted at any point, Malachi puts the kettle on, that I would have asked how long you'd been filming in our house, frankly.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there just aren't any kettles in the show. If there were, I mean, well, no, at the beginning, technically, he makes.
Well,
but this right there.
This content thing that's being written, right? He has an apron. We've discussed this. He has to make the tea, right? There we go.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Well, Emma, if you're watching script edits, mention the apron, and the kettle.
Right. Exactly. It's all my fault. He's always putting the kettle on in his heart. Yes.
Yeah, no. If only the pods had built-in kettles like English tanks.
Yes. Right? Oh yeah, because they do have.
What?
Sorry, I was just talking about this with someone the other day.
Tanks have built-in kettles.
Because
I was in a tank. I drove a British tank, and it did not have a kettle.
Because in like World War I or World War II or whatever, British soldiers kept leaving the safety of their tanks to go make tea, and it was a legitimate safety hazard, so they had to have a kettle in the tanks. Show me anything more British.
You are scandalized now, aren't you? You just
You'll excuse me, I need to write a strongly worded letter that
Dear
my
sir,
tank did
approximately
not
7 years ago.
I'm just gonna have to go back.
There's a Tom Scott video about it.
That is hilarious. And you're right, that's right up there with the most British things ever.
I love that. So much.
Yeah, I would think having boiling water in a moving tank would be a safety issue. But this is the British we're talking about, and they're willing to take burns. Bless you.
Isn't that?
They're willing to take burns for a cuppa. So, of course, there's a Tom Scott video about it. Sadly, the pods are from the USA and dispense energy drinks. Love it.
No, it's John's. The pods have no provisions in them because that's smart. John is the one with the energy drinks because they're from Philly.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
John is just a big Philadelphia joke. Anyway.
Okay, we have all your lovely social media details.
Yes.
Right, so Twitter.
Yes, so my Twitter is CorvetCastle12.
Yep.
And ROGUEMAKER's is at ROGUEMAKERPod, which is also our Instagram. We also have a Tumblr, which is just at ROGUEMAKER. Or not at. Well, I guess you can do ads on whatever. Tumblr, ROGUEMAKER.
And episode 6 is out when?
That is a week from today, I believe.
Yes. Fantastic.
Thank
you so much
for
joining us.
One thing.
More?
You say what's next for me specifically.
Yes.
I told you this before, and now I said I was going to say it on stream so that it's recorded.
It's accountability time.
Now
folks.
I'm accountable for it. I am intending to stream myself reading all of Homestuck out loud on Twitch. So I will be streaming Homestuck and also probably have guests helping me read. Because I have a history with Homestuck and a lot of feelings about it. It should be a nice chill time, whether you've read Homestuck before or not. And so that'll happen eventually, hopefully soon, probably as soon as I figure out what my schedule for the summer is. Granted, it will probably take a lot longer than the summer, but I have a job for the summer, so. Yeah, so on here, if you're a regular in the stream, you should know what my Twitch is.
Yes.
But my Twitch is Corvid Castle without the 12.
Yep.
So I'm Corvid Castle basically everywhere, but where it's already been taken, there's a 12 added to it.
There we go.
But yeah, so I'm Corvid. So you could follow me here on Twitch if you want to watch me read Homestuck and talk about it and discuss it with other people.
Cool.
That sounds amazing.
That sounds awesome.
Yes, and you're welcome, and you are welcome as a guest. Either of you, both of you, if you.
I think we would love that. Thank you very much.
Eventually, somewhere down the line, I have a character I kind of want you to read for, but we can discuss it later.
Please do.
That sounds good.
That sounds great.
Okay, folks in the chat, we are going to take a quick break and say goodnight to Rook, and then we will be back with some shenanigans. So this is a good chance for you to take a stretch, hydrate things, move things, perhaps snack, all of that good stuff. And we will be back in a couple of minutes.
Hopefully. Oop.
Hey, how we doing?
I think this is all working. Hello, we've switched back to being over here because
Hi, I'm Alasdair in a box now, but not a small box.
Okay, there's a whole lot of boxes involved in this stream tonight. Let's be honest. Chat, should I start my vocal cut edit tonight? If you want to. Sure, that sounds good. I tried to make this work. I'm going to be reading the shenanigan this evening. You will hear why, what I described to you.
Will you
the
ever?
Shenanigan. But I tried to make Alasdair be a little Alasdair in a box, but I didn't have what I needed in time. Oh, which I should make a note about really quickly. Rook is so cool. That was such a fun conversation.
Wasn't that fun? Rook's amazing.
Had a really good time. Hang on a second. I got to make a
so freaking
Alasdair in a box.
Marguerite's actually making a note for
I
Alasdair
am,
in a
of
box.
course, I'm making a note.
For those of you keeping score, by the way,
it's hard
as
to
we can
overstate
tell,
my satisfaction.
Sandbags have been put in place around Number 10's front door, and the Prime Minister has, started digging Spike Pit.
Really?
Well, I surfaced briefly to look at the news, and the Attorney General, a lady who is only marginally more legally qualified than I am, has said yes, she would really rather like to be Prime Minister.
Oh my gosh. That interview did have very good vibes. Let's put the politics back in the box.
Yeah.
We've had a lovely evening.
Back in the box. Yeah.
They're not
amazing.
going anywhere, and they will just sit there for the night. I like how all your mood lighting behind you is working as well. It looks very good right now.
It does have that kind of, hi, welcome to the show kind of vibe.
We're going to do some smooth jazz, but actually
Welcome
we're going to do
smooth
some
jazz with me,
smooth shenanigans, because tonight I'm going to read you a flash story, and the flash story is entitled Billable Hours for the Disputed Rights of the Chosen One.
It is so good, y'all. By
L. Chan, and it was published in Winegraph, which is a little online publication which I have just learned about, and they are devoted to very Tolkienian sorts of vibes. They encourage fantasy stories that focus on vignettes, little things like travel, family, home, etc. And which is a word drawn from Tolkienian inspiration. I saw this story come across my Twitter feed, and then I read it. And we are in matching outfits. Hi Naomi, how you doing? But that's because you can't see Alasdair is actually in his Last Week Tonight t-shirt. I mean, you could stand up if you really wanted to. Ta-da! There you go. You should just have the busy week John poking up over the top here. And so when I saw this flash story, I went, it must be mine. And now, tonight, our shenanigan is going to be for me. And yes. Alasdair can entertain you with reactions and facial expressions. Did I put it in the chat? I did, in fact, put it in the chat. I didn't put a link to the story in the chat, though. I can do that as well if people want to.
So can I. I'm drunk with power.
You can?
Yes.
Do it. Let me watch. Chop, chop. Ta-da! You are, in fact, drunk with power. Well done. Okay. All right. Here we go. Billable Hours for the Disputed Rights of the Chosen One by L. Chan. The esteemed firm of Babbage and Isqueakin is pleased to present Your Highness Alphonse I, Regent of the 100 Isles, warlord of our glorious campaign against the known world, billable hours for your litigation against the pretender, the false claimant against your son, in the dispute of the named Chosen One of the kingdom. All the legal documents were gathered by a pair of our finest paralegal officers, Albert Wendell and
I would go Timotheus.
Timotheus? Let's go with Timotheus. Timotheus Zhang, with the aid of Bradus II, our newest research intern. 1. Copying costs for all legal documents, 1,309 pages at the 3 hands of our stenographer, Uldrich the Abomination, 150 florins. By the way, if you've ever seen a legal bill, that is absolutely accurate. Train fare for 3 second-class seats between the 100 Isles and the City of Learning, 60 florins. 3 rooms for 2 nights at the Morning Glory Tavern and Inn, City of Learning, 90 florins. 1 certified true copy, Prophecy of the Chosen One of the Kingdom, Registry of Prophecies, Signs and Portents, City of Learning, 20 florins. One planetariumist's report on the alignment of the stars on the birth date of your son is provided by the Endless Ori, City of Learning, 50 florins. Orrery, correct? Orrery. Orrery. Dinner for two. Des Poulets Bouvis, voted #1 must-try restaurant by Quest Advisor. City of Learning, 80 florins. Dinner for one. Morning Glory Tavern, City of Learning, 4 florins. Dirigible fare for 3 economy class seats between the City of Learning and the Temple in the Clouds, 105 florins. Airship pirate ransom insurance excess for ransoming out 2 paralegal officers and 1 research intern, 300 florins. I want that story. Temple fees for 1 human sacrificial ceremony for the summoning of Lars, God above all and elector of the chosen one of the kingdom, performed by Chief Priest, the Right Honorable Alcox, 200 florins. Death gratuity for the family of Bradius II, 500 florins. Urgent scrying session with the chief clerk at the palace for palace employment records of 1 Right Honorable Alcock and palace records for the prophecy of the chosen one, 15 florins. Booking of the honeymoon suite at the Grand Respite, voted #1 accommodations in all lands north of the equator, and Quest Advisor for 2 years running. Temple in the Clouds, 180 florins. Submersible fare for 3, 2 economy class and 1 first class for underwater transit via Great Whale to the 100 Isles, 129 florins. Total payment due, 1,903 florins, plus prevailing tax rate of 13%, 2,150 florins. The firm offers our congratulations for the decision by Honorable Judge Feldstein, the all-seeing avatar of the Goddess of Justice. The prophecy was correct to the letter in foretelling that the Crown Prince is the chosen one. We note it was not within your original intent that our research uncover the Crown Prince's true parentage, nor that it be made public in the courts. It must be of some comfort to your highness that these same curious circumstances appear to be fulfilling the famously oblique means by which the chosen one saves the kingdom. The firm regrets that we must recuse ourselves from acting for you in any other legal matters, in particular your request for representation of the matter of your dethronement, as we have already been retained by the Queen in the matter of the dissolution of your marriage to her. We further regret our inability to extend preferential payment terms to your highness, given your time-limited access to the royal treasury. Let us know if we can be of service in any other way. Yours, Babbage and Esqueakin.
Oh my god. Oh, that's glorious.
Is that not like the perfect... I love that form of story, epistological, the revelation of the story, like between the lines. Like, I would like the whole short story about the pirate ransom, please. That would be fantastic. And poor Brutus, the research assistant.
Oh.
I'm like, they left him with the poor little dinner at the inn while they went out to the nice dinner. I'm like, things are not looking good for Brutus at this point. Right? It's just, it's so sweet. I really, really, really enjoyed that. Endless orrery. Also, just the economy of the world building. Like, the best definition I've ever heard of a flash fiction story is they are story grenades. They just drop and give you a concept, and then they just evaporate.
Quest Advisor,
right? I mean, think about how much world building is implied by Quest Advisor. And it's just a clever pun on, TripAdvisor, but God, it's so smart. I would read so much more of this world. I hope they go and visit the Temple of the White Rat, It just makes me very happy. It's a great little story.
That is absolutely delightful.
And I hope that was a good shenanigan for everybody. Not that you needed much of a shenanigan after the delightful conversation with Rogue, but...
How fucking cool is Rook?
But because Wendy's already in bed, we love you, Wendy. We're running past our bedtime a little bit. So we should probably talk about where we are and are not going to be in this coming week. Yes, everybody in the chat is giving love to Wendy, so thank you very much. So the summer holidays are upon us, everyone, which means that our Twitch schedule for the next little bit, it's going to get a little mussed around. Starting with this coming weekend. So the full lid will be out as usual on Friday. That's your cue.
It's written. I've done it.
Right, but normally you talk about how our Hugo Award nominated newsletter, The Full Lid, will be out on Friday.
Yeah, but you were doing a really good job. Okay, so...
And you were distracted. Were you checking to see if anybody else had resigned in the 3 minutes it took me to read that story?
No. So, the next place you could find us...
Moving swiftly on!
The next place you can find us is Friday, where our multiple award-nominated pop culture newsletter, The Full Lid, will go live. There we go. There are, as the content's logged, we got some good stuff for you this week. There is a detailed look at Fondalee's fantastic Greenbone saga. There is a look at the just superb Beef Squad, which is a beautifully realized carry-on movie with superheroes comic that's crowdfunding at the moment. The interstitials this week are Magical Cat, which is a series of short claymation films made by a pair of artists about their asshole cat. It is one of my favorite things we've ever run. And don't worry, because our sign-off music is Tom Cardy reassuring us we won't go back to Dinosaur Island.
Oh my god, that means you're going to watch it like 3 more times.
It's a good issue this week, folks. Oh. Then on Sunday, we are not streaming because it is Marguerite's birthday.
Not on Sunday, but this weekend.
That's why I said imminently.
Imminent.
It's Marguerite's birthday imminently, and she does have wish lists. And we are celebrating this by going to Cardiff for several days. We're going to go sit in a nice hotel. We're going to go look at the water. We're going to go sit in the water.
I hope so.
And I have politely requested chips under a cloche.
Yes, Alasdair would like room service chips. That's what he's decided he wants. Yes, we're going to just go away for a couple of days and be somewhere else where we can't do work, because that sounds very nice. And Alasdair's not allowed to buy me any birthday presents.
Because I kind of bought you a sunroof.
Because he bought me a sunroof for the car. So that is my birthday present, and I'm very much looking forward to it when it arrives in a couple of weeks.
And she's serious, folks. I'm not allowed to buy her flowers. I'm allowed to bake a cake. That's about it.
No, you were not allowed. Yes, that is correct. No birthday presents. Rest for Alasdair and Marguerite 2K22. Yes, very much so. We're hoping to see maybe Pezzy and have a lunch together, which would be nice.
That would be super cool.
Yes, no work.
No worky.
Things going to be loaded on iPads and Kindles, and that'll be about it.
I'm taking the Switch.
Oh, yes, he's going to bring the Switch with him as well.
I'm going to play games on the Switch for fun.
Yes, precisely. So we will not be streaming on Wednesday. We will be back here we will not be streaming on Sunday, and we will be back here next Wednesday with... we don't know yet. We haven't thought that far ahead.
Let's face it, MR James went on a fair few shitty holidays, so there's a good chance it's going to be one of those.
Yeah, or we're thinking about maybe exploring one of the other narrative games that we have available, like Scarlet Hollow. I have this vague memory of there being like a what was it called? It's like a choose your own adventure romance Victorian dating game.
Yes, like Fantasy French Revolution dating sim.
Yeah, we might do that one, because that'll be lots of funny.
There's that, there's Stanley Parable, there's all kinds of stuff.
Yes, and soon Stray will be released as well, but we're probably going to save that for our Sunday morning stream.
We might be taking a break from Outer Wilds to play that, depending.
We'll see. We'll see how frustrating those stinking anglerfish get. We might need a break.
Anglerfish.
No cursed mesotints for your holiday or spooky crowns, one can hope.
I swear, we rock up in Cardiff and someone goes, "Oh, look at this crown the archaeology dig beneath the hotel that you're staying at just discovered." We're going to be like, "No,
Nope.
mm-mm,
Nope.
mm-mm."
No. No. I want to eat Welsh cakes and sleep in late. That's...
And no fucking golf talk
no
either.
fucking golf talk. Very much so. Well spotted, Stitch. And that'll be it. Our delightful Wendy is hopefully recovered well enough that I believe is about to be on Hollybobs for a couple weeks.
Several weeks, yes.
And our darling Zalia will also be away on vacances here shortly. So Ducky will be holding down the fort for us as moderator for a week or two. So thank you all very much in advance for being your normal lovely selves. We greatly
Thank you so much, folks. And thanks again to Rook. That was so much fun.
We did really have a good time. And we are planning to bring on Emma, I think, when ROGUEMAKER wraps up so that we can talk about it a little bit more. And now I want to talk about organizationally whatnot things. And I should hopefully have internet next Wednesday, but who knows? You don't need to have internet next Wednesday. You need to have vacation.
What you need to do is have a relax.
You need to send us
one
photos
relax for Zalia.
with drinks with umbrellas in them, sitting in a swimming pool. Yes, that is very much what we would like.
Do a relax.
We are never normal, but we are often lovely, and that is true. Yeah, you could just call it that. That's like the description of the stream now, isn't it?
Exactly.
Right, I think that's everything. Thank you very much for joining us, everybody. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you so much, folks.
Don't stay up all night watching the news.
No.
It's gonna be what it's gonna be. The news will be there in the morning. Doom scrolling is not conducive to anybody. Have a nice, lovely, relaxing rest of your night, and we will see you soon.
And with that in mind, I've been Alasdair.
And I've been Marguerite.
And this has been fun. We'll see you next time.
Good night.